Hello everybody. My speech here, it will be, the title is Light After Media, because I realized that today we have a lot of media devices that we use every day that in fact convey a light in space. So based on this, I try to make a presentation of my works that are related to this. And I will also present some future works that I've done, that I've not done yet, but some works that I've scheduled in the future because they are related to this. And the first thing I have here is a slide of some ways of growing media we are using today from screens. The screens are ubiquitous every day, so mostly today the media we are facing comes from a light emitting device. Differently from what in the past, when you have a lot of printed media, in that case it was a passive device, so it had to have light coming from outside, and then it was bringing light back. In addition, this type of media are dynamic in time, so light changes in time, because when you have a video, the light changes in time. Even books, as we see, well, I don't see the cursor here, here it is. Okay, even books now are backlit, so even a traditional printed media becomes a light emitting device. This happens in our daily life, indoor and outdoor. We have the LED displays that change the light in the city, in the urban environment. And I want to start with, this is Times Square in New York, but here I have a video from Helsinki. Let me see if I can, okay, it runs. Okay, this is a video that has been sent to me by a curator, a Finnish curator. He said that he had this display that was newly installed in the Opera of Helsinki, and he told me it's like 6 meter by 6 meter, and he says, well, I might have this display free for an art project in the next years. Please propose me something, and we will see if it fits. Okay. So this is the video he sent me. And I made a proposal, and the proposal is based on the fact that now you see this video during daytime, and the light that it emits, it's for me already a little bit disturbing, especially when there is advertisement, but it will be such, especially during night. So my proposal is to put some images of the moon, but not just a static image of the moon, because my intention is to use this screen as a lighting device. So what I want to do is to get some images from the internet, so images that are already made with public licensing, and let's see if it starts. Maybe I have to click like this. So the idea is to use several of them in a way that you start from an image of the moon, and in this way the light coming from the screen is the light of the moon, because this is a media, but it's emitting the light, maybe amplified because it's near, but it's still the color of the moon, and it's a sort of a mood of a night environment. So what I'm doing here is with an algorithm, I take the pixel of the image and swap the pixel all together, so it becomes a monochrome image. So the idea is that we even lose the image itself. So this becomes a monochrome lighting device that has the light of the moon as a source, but you don't recognize it as an image. So the space in this part of the city becomes lit with the moonlight, but you don't go and see the light there. You focus on the space. Because one thing that I don't want to see too much is that the attention, it's always on screens. We always have our attention in screens, and I want to avoid this. especially when you're outside, you are with your friends. I mean, pay attention to your friends, to what you're doing. This is a light, this is not an image. And the idea is that there are several images that with different colors, because moon has different colors, and then depends who took the picture. It may be because the moon had really that different color, or it could be that some filters used, depending on the type of camera you have, maybe it change every time you make a picture or you pass through a media, your content gets filtered in some way, so it gets changed. Maybe you lose something, you add something, it depends. So the idea is that we have this running. In theory, the algorithm, when I will do it, will take images real time from the internet, looking at if it's, the moon is round, so there are some object recognition, so it will be automatic and it will go on forever. So it's not a video that plays always the same, but it every time checks for new images, and so it can go on forever. So maybe it will be for the week of the Light Festival, but in theory this work is open to be there for a long time. In fact, festivals tend to have some very quick content for people passing by. I'm not really interested in this type of works. I prefer type of work that are more integrated with the environment, so they can be there for a long time. Okay, so you see there are also red moon, and also this red moon gets decomposed and becomes a sort of reddish monochrome. In fact, it's not really monochrome because all the pixels are there. One interesting thing is that the single colors are not alterated by this algorithm. They are just scrambled around. So all the pixels of the original image are here in this image, and they are continuously moving. I don't know if you see it, but in theory you should see the sort of moving sand. From here I don't know if you see it, but because of this presentation. One funny thing is that while I was doing this work, I remembered a tale by Italo Calvino. The Italians for sure know it, because it's a very famous writer. Now he's dead since some years. But like in the 50s, he wrote a tale about a family living in front of a sign, a neon sign, that was blinking like 20 seconds on and 20 seconds off. And and in fact, that sign was representing this. I made this sign with an online neon generator, and made this sign. In theory, what you could see in this tale, I think you have some links here, so you can go and check it, is that this family was not really living very well, because for 20 seconds they had the sign, and then 20 seconds it was off, and they were trying to see the sky, the moon, and the stars, but then this sign went on again for 20 seconds, and they lost their sight of the sky. So this is what remember me. So I made this slide in memory of this day. And okay, this also helps me because we have another neon sign. This neon sign, I don't know if somebody recognizes it. Does somebody recognize this neon sign? No, it's not easy for super experts. This sign comes from a movie from Alfred Hitchcock. The movie is Vertigo, and this neon sign is outside this Hotel Empire, but the light of this neon sign gets into the room where the film gets recorded, and then all the characters of that part of the movie gets all this green atmosphere that comes from the neon sign. Hitchcock has a reason to have this green light, but what's interesting for us is that this green light gets in the room, it gets recorded in the movie, and then I made some considerations about light in movies. Now starts a new project that I made on light of movies. And the first consideration is that the movie happens in a war room where are you watching the movie. So the movie doesn't happen just on the screen, because from the screen light is bouncing back in all the room. So if sometime, instead of watching the movie, you watch the rest of the room, you see a color changing in your room. So for example, what I did the pictures of the room in like 1 picture per second. So what happens is that I record the light that changes in the room. So, and if I put a little bit of a slice of the images, one next to another, I can see the light change. In fact, you will see that most of my works are related to light, the changing light of something. And in this case, I am focusing on this project is called Movie Light, because it focuses on movies, and that in fact are a media. So it stays in the subject of today. And if you look, for example, that specific scene of the movie where you have the green light, you see these shades of green. Plus you have a dark part, because the movie has the dark part. If you know why, you will see. But anyway, all your room will be modified by the movie. So part of this work gets like represented in 2 ways. The first way is that my intention is to create a big room, a white room that gets colored like the movie. So it gets a little bit amplified. So instead of going in a space and watching the movie, you stay in a cube that will change color as it was in the movie. Now we have a sample here of that scene just in color. So the idea is that you have the whole room that changes color in this way. This is a couple of minutes. My intention is to keep the sound of the movie. It will be scenes without speech. So it's universal, and you just have color. Imagine you have this in the whole room, the ceiling, the bottom, everywhere. So the intention is just to be in this room with this color. Of course, here you just have the screen, but okay, I will do this for like 10 movies for the when there is the exhibition, and the people can select the movie that enter this space. And some movies have part with different colors. For example, this was green, but there are one with blues, one with oranges, and there are real scenes where something happens just with sound, ambient sound, or music. Okay, this was a dark scene you saw before. Of course, here with the light is a bit not perfect. Okay, this was a couple of minutes of this experience in color, and if we want to see what happened in all this movie, there is all these lines of the whole movie, and this is the color that changed during the movie. So this is another way of representing the light from that movie, is making some lines of color depending on the second which I recorded the line, and then they go all together. If you see here at the end is where you have that specific part that we have seen before. Now I will show you quickly some movies. that you will see that how light changes in your room of these movies. One thing that I want to stress is that I really film the wall, so it's not a digital process. It's really a screen that projected the movie and the light was filmed from a wall. So it's really pictures, so it's a photography work because it's capturing light. And you see how light changes. This is 2001, An Odyssey in Space. And I have, La Grande Bellezza. Then we have Four Weddings and a Funeral. I've selected some movies because they have a specific grading or specific parts. So it will be interesting to understand a little bit how light changes. Then here we have Le Fabuleux Destin d'Amélie Poulain. Then we have Dreams. This was an episode movie, and you could see that different episodes have different color. And we have Apocalypse Now, Being John Malkovich, The Graduate. In fact, I will use this blue part of The Graduate to make the color cube. For example, this is a pool scene in the swimming pool, when he entered the swimming pool, and I will make a cube off of this. And we have Taxi Driver, then we have Fantasia, we would say. It's a cartoon, you see how much contrast you have in colors. And also black and white movie, because I wanted to experiment with black and white. You never know. Then the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and that's it for the movies. So this project, as you see, capturing the movies, the movie light. I have two outputs, I would say. One output is this cube, where you have specific scenes, plus you have these color lines and they become sort of, you can print them. So my idea is when there is an exhibition, you should print them like in a specific site. Okay. Now, I talk about the work that was presented in Tallinn in 2015. It was a bit experimental, because I had to make, we decided to make a different work at the end because the weather condition was not perfect, but it gave me the possibility to do this experiment in real, in space, in the city. So what is this? You see here just 3 images, but in fact this was a video that was projected, and what is it was about? So the name was Flashback. And this was a video generated dynamically, and the colors were based on a painting that was present in Tallinn. The painting was from 1463, and my idea is that with my work and the relation with the colors of the painting, you were really seeing the light from another century. So this was my idea. So this is the painting that was there, and the concept is that this painting for me is not just a medium of this subject, which of course it is. You know, this is about death, and in this case the kings, the queen, and the pope, but my idea is that this painting was also a medium of light, because you have specific colors in this painting that you could see at the time. So, if you here, it's maybe interesting to know what is a medium. For me, a medium is something that represents the essence of something else and is equivalent for a certain purpose. So, for example, it may be, generally when you take a picture, you want to see the image, who was there, and so on, but it can be that in the same time you are also capturing the light of that moment. And you can use those colors to maybe recreate a different light. And that's all about what this my speech here is about. It's the fact that the medium is not just a medium of a subject, but also a light. Of course, when you have a medium, you transform this message, because maybe if your image is low resolution, you lose something. If it's not color accurate, you lose something, and so on. But you may also add something, because medium has a sort of some specific way of recording things that may add something. So if we want to see what was happening, what I consider to be the light path from 1500 to now, we can see here, following these arrows that are the light, and see what happens. So the things work this way. These are different media passages. Let's see if it's clear. Okay, so we have the sun of 1500, then that goes in the trees and the clothes of the people that were there. Then there is light bouncing from those trees and cloths, goes to not the eye who is the painter, and then he recorded that light in the painting. This is my theory. Then we go back to our age, and then there is the sun of this age that goes with his light on the painting. The painting bounces light back to my camera. It goes in the digital memory. Then we say it gets processed somehow in the digital domain. Then there is a video projection which has a lamp, an LCD filter, who filters based on this memory that we have. This screen, this light goes on the wall of the city, and then it bounces back to the observer. So what I say is that even there are all these media passages that are, so the observer is seeing a light that is related to the light of 1500. It's a bit sort of complex passages, but in fact they are related. So this is maybe an interesting theory, or I hope you like it, I hope you understand that light can be mediated, and here there are several passages, but in fact if you see it all together, everything is related. So this was called flashback, because you could be taken back to a light of another century. And how do I made it? You haven't seen yet what it comes out, but in theory I had to swap the image in two because of how my algorithm was working. There was I created a random path in this image, and so basically it was like there was a micro camera filming the image and moving around and smoothing a bit what the camera sees. And here we have a sample video of what was happening. No, we need to. Okay, it starts. So it's slow because this is a lighting device for me. It's not it's more related to light than to an image. So you could not really see something on it. If we let it go, it's slowly changing, going through this image. So the idea is that if you pass by in the city, you don't really see it moving. So it's not distracting you as all these very fast commercial videos, but every time you go, you should see something different. So it's intentionally very slow. No, in fact it's, okay, now it's already going, sorry. So if you remember the original image, we had some green colors about the trees and the grass and so on. Plus the red was coming from the clothes of the Pope and the Cardinal and so on. So we have this color that are taken back to us from those parts of the image. Okay. And this in theory goes on forever. Because now here it's a sample video, but what it was running in the exhibition, it was an algorithm that took the image and went around forever. Okay. Okay, now when I make some, when you see what are we doing today with video projectors? And when we talk about media, it came to my mind the Allegory of the Cave of Plato, who talks about people who are in a cave watching at shadows on a wall, shadows of not the real thing, but already of a sort of media who is made of clay. So in that story, it tells about the difference between people who really understand things because they see the idea of things, and people who just see the shadow, that is something related to the thing but not the real thing. Then I'm not interested now to talk about Plato's work, but what is interesting for me is that what we can see from this image and how a video projector works. So in fact Plato has described a video projector because there is a light source, that is this fire. There is some device who stays in the middle, who modifies this light, and then this light gets projected on a screen, in this case the cave or the screen. So this is the same architecture of a video projector. So it's interesting how we go back centuries and do things right now that are related. So the concept of media gets in also in ancient philosophy. Okay. Now we talk about a modification of what you've seen before in Tallinn. It's a project that I still have to make, and it's called Paint My Light, because it's similar to the one you have seen in Tallinn, but what I want to do is to create it on a space that is not just a wall, but at least a couple of walls, so you have a more comprehensive space. Because what you had before, it could still have a sort of screen effect. What I want to avoid is the screen effect. So one wall is like a screen, two walls is a bit already a space. And what also is interesting in this work is that people can come in a space. This is made for like sort of like a light festival, for example, or it could be an installation in a space. It can also be permanent. So people can put their cell phone, the screen of their mobile phone, putting it on this base. Let's see if you see the cursor. Here it is. So here, there is this cursor. You can place your mobile phone with the screen down. Here there is, inside this cube, there is a video camera who captures the screen of your phone with light. So in fact, you are transmitting an image that you select on your phone, and you are transmitting it with light, without Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or whatever. And this image becomes the source of the transformation that is similar to what you've seen before. And for example, this is a real image I made of a screen of a mobile phone. So for example, you select this image, the algorithm moves and it creates this sort of output. So for example, this one. So it's similar to the thing, the algorithm is similar, but it's interactive. So you can put your own image and change the color of the space. And for example, I made another simulation with a different color. And this was some crayons and with different colors, and the effect would be something like this. So the idea is that you can sort of, it's called Paint My Light, because you go there with your light, with your device who is emitting light. You put it as a light, as a source of the light that becomes the light of the space. And in theory, if you think, like for example, if there was something happening in this room, it would be, for example, this wall and like half of the other wall. So I expect that the light of this space changes, and you can change it with your image that you select, use as light color. Okay, now the question is, can we record the light in a medium? So now the question is, we have seen some works before which I assumed that there was light on a medium, and of course I'm sure it is, but is there somebody who tried to explicitly record light in a medium? We go with one famous image that I show every year. It's an image, it's a composition of several photographs by Jan Liebets, who's a Dutch photographer, who in 1970s made 4 of this work. And so every 15 minutes he took a picture of a subject. For example, this was outside Konrad Fischer Gallery in Düsseldorf. And you see, before it was dark, then it becomes lighter, and so on. He's a conceptual photographer, and he says, a photograph does not reproduce an image, it records variations of light. So technically, this is what it is, a photograph. And I find this very inspiring, because it a bit detaches the technical from the content. What happens in photography? In photography, when you record something, it's not an absolute light, especially when you need to reproduce it, and especially if you need to reproduce it on paper. So because your medium, the paper, is not emitting light. In fact, you record the light and then you bring it back with a bouncing light. It's completely asymmetrical, recording and reproducing. So I recorded. One very important thing is light intensity. In a photograph, you never record the intensity of light, because you change your diaphragm, your timing, to have an average good image, not a good light. So what I did in 2009, I created an apparatus to record the intensity of light during the day and the color. So I used a lux meter connected to a computer and a camera that was recording the color of this white cube. So what I did is that I recorded for the whole day. It was the 21st of June 2009, and then I created a lamp that could reproduce this light. So this is what it helped me to reproduce light with intensity and color. I used an Arduino to do this. It's a very experimental thing. And here was the calibration process. And here we see the computer where you could select the specific minute. So every minute I was recording the intensity. And you could select, in the installation, you could select the specific minute, and the lamp was reproducing the light of that minute. This work was called The Longest Day Replay. The Longest Day is an homage to the Jan Liebets image, who was called The Shortest Day, because it was made in the shortest day. Mine was done in the longest day. Then it's replay because you could replay back the light. And so one thing I like about this is that you have a cube that it looks like a holder for a sculpture. So when you are in a museum, you have the socle where you have the sculpture, but here light is the subject. So, and here we have some images that we can even not see here in a different type of light you had during the day, that was reproduced in the exhibition. Okay. Of course, we are making a picture of this that is not representing the intensity again. But if we go back in time, we see that somebody else made paintings, so he used the technology of the time to record light. Because if you study a little bit what Monet does with his subjects, he uses the same subject, but you have different colors and different lights. So one thing that is well known is that the most important thing is not the subject, because he makes maybe 50 paintings of the cathedral, but with different light conditions. So the subject in fact is light, and not really the cathedral. The cathedral is an excuse to make the painting of light. Okay, and now we see other type of staying with Monet. This is the famous painting that gives the name to Impressionism. It's called Impression Soleil Levant, and it's a sunrise. And I want to show you a couple of sunrise made by other artists. The first one is from Bill Viola, who is called The Darker Side of Dawn, where he makes, he films a sunrise without changing the timings and aperture of the camera. So you start with this tree and the sun behind the hill, and this is an image I found on the internet. Then next images I made it myself in the exhibition, and you could see that while the sun rises, the camera gets saturated more and more, and the whole room was becoming white. So, and yeah, this was Bill Viola, and here we have instead a recording I made of a sunrise. It's from my window, one of my windows at home. And this video is running. It is. It is running, maybe. Okay. So this is a sort of time-lapse video because it's 1 frame per second. We can go quickly because, in fact, it's not the video which is the interesting part. We can go quickly. This is a sunrise. I made this for 6 days in a row, but then I made, I took one line of pixel from each frame and composed them from left to right. So what you see here is a picture that's, here it maintains the space of the original image, but here it's time. Basically the same frame but different times. This is about 1 hour and a half. So from that video, we have here one image that represents the change of light, and so the sunrise in time. And here we have the other day, then another day again, another day again, and one other day, and again. Here there was cloudy, so I couldn't see the sun, but this was the effect. So this is more like a programmed work. So my work is made from 1 week sunrise, and the sunrise, this is how it was happening in these 2 cloudy days. So you don't see all the colorful before because it was cloudy and foggy, and that's what you have. Okay. Then changing a little bit the subject is a work that I presented for the first time here in Milano. It was an exhibition curated by Gisella, and it's called 1000 Memories of Light. And there was an LED strip of addressable pixel of 1000 pixels, and there was a color sensor that was a sort of camera, but just with red, green, and blue. So it's a 1 pixel camera. And then you have a flame, a small candle. And how this thing works? Yeah, you see here all the 18 meters of the exhibition. This was in Tallinn, again, because I also took it there. Here we have a video. The thing was working in this way. So there was here the sensor pointing at the flame, and each time it captures an image, it sends it to the first pixel, and the first pixel gets shifted forward. So what you have, in one time you could see the change that gets from time to space. Then while you see the video, you can understand a little bit better. See what happens. You see the movement of the flame. In fact, the 1 pixel images of the flame scroll down this 1000 pixel screen. In fact, this is a screen of 1000 by 1. maybe for the video in San Carpoffo. Here in Milano. Of course, it's much better to see this work live. This is just a video. Okay. If we go back to Monet, there is one thing that I noticed. This is a painting he made in 1897, and here we have the same painting some years later. What do you see from difference of 30 years? Is that the image is a bit the same subject, but this is, you recognize a bit that there is a bridge over some water, and here, if you don't know it's a bridge, maybe it's a bit difficult to recognize it. So I think that once again he was moving from subject to color, and in fact, if you see when he makes this sort of paintings that are space paintings, I think they are more than a painting. They're like an ambient installation. So they are a way of recreating a space and the mood of a place more than just the subject. So this is still to go back, and now there is a work I presented in Luminale. It's a light festival in Frankfurt that there is every couple of years, and I started from the idea that you could bring light from one space to another. So the fact that you could mediate light. This was some light pixels that I bought on the internet, and I used them for. This was a render of the thing. Here is the pixel on my desk. I put these images because Gisela always asked me to give some background of some works to tell how they are made, so you could also have some technical background. So I laser cut some spaces for this big pixel, and this is an image that I used as a color source of the work. What I do in this work is that I create a sort of matrix, but it's not like a static matrix because the cubes are rotated randomly. So I created a matrix that you don't recognize it as a screen, but more like sort of lighting device. And I divided the original images in places, so like 5 by 12, like these pixels, and they are mapped one to another. And an algorithm moves in a way that it randomly picks from each area a different color, a random color of that area. So if one area you have some, mostly, it's around this violet and pink, but there are some white parts, yellow parts, and they slowly change from one to another. Okay, this goes on. And I installed on the facade of this gallery in Frankfurt, and you maybe see here where there is a real wisteria. What you saw before, it was a wisteria, where is it now? Sorry. What you see was a wisteria plant. Sorry, I didn't want to move. And the title is called Wisteria, who is the English name, or also the Latin name, Blauregen, the German name, Glicine, the Italian, and then ... means it can go on forever. So this is a changing work, and has different names because it means that we have a name for a thing, but in fact it's different. It's the same thing, but with different names, and maybe it's a changing thing. And here is a picture at night, a static picture. And here there was a moment where, in the day, where the real wisteria was in blossom in the space next to my virtual one, and you can see on the background during the day the cubes. And here, maybe I don't know if it's a video. Is this a video? Yes, this one is a video. Wait, you can see it's a 40-second video, and you can see how it works. One thing I forgot to tell you is that what is the speed of the change of this pixel? If you see on top, there is a wind speed meter, and the more the speed, the faster they change. So it's like a real plant, it changes faster if there is more wind and slower if there is less wind. Okay. And it was made for Luminale, but it's still there. So like my works, I try not to make very flashy and temporal things, so they can stay and stay for a longer time. Okay, now back on the same desk as before, we have the tiles for the next project. That's a project that has to be created by Gisela Gellini, and these are pieces of LED walls. You know, LED walls, the one you saw in Times Square at the beginning. I use them in pieces to create a space. Now it's still experimental, and this is how you see a tile. It's 16 pixels by 32. And my idea is to capture the movement of plants as we saw in the movements of the flame before. My idea is to apply this to a plant with a more complex device, and I should see something like this that gets displayed. This is the change of moving a plant in time. And the idea is this is a render on the space where we should do it. So you see here there is this lit plant, and there will be a camera in front of it, and the movement of the changing on the plant will be transmitted to the different tiles, LED tiles in the space, like it was the one in the candle, but it's going to be wider, and it will occupy all the space with this movement of this plant. And the title of this work, it will be Messages from Green. You will see this moving around and occupy the space. This is it for my presentation about this my works that are related to light after media.